Hello everyone, this is Gary, KK4GC, Kilo 4 Golf Charlie. Happy New Year. It's New Year's night 2020 and this is my first video. I wanted to give a little demonstration on how to use the DXLab rig control and logging software suite in a multi-radio configuration, and how I got it to interoperate with SDRuno and fldigi. This is not a tutorial on the installation or the operation of any of these applications. I don't claim it's the right way or the best way or the only way. It's just how I made it work. I've been using DXLabs for several years now, but I'm fairly new to fldigi and brand new to SDRuno. There are plenty of good videos out there on fldigi and SDRuno, much better than anything I could produce at this time, if ever. Here's a web browser that shows some sites where you can go get help for fldigi and SDRuno. I watched K4REF Rick's series to get started with fldigi, and I watched SDR Plays channel to get started with SDRuno and the RSP1A radio that I have. Here's Rick's sites, very good sites for learning how to use fldigi. DXLabs has some excellent help files and wiki pages and FAQ pages and such out there. And here's one with some useful info. It's related to what we're doing here. If this video goes well, then I'll probably do one on some of the things I learned how to do that got me hooked on DXLabs in the first place. And depending on how long this video runs, I may stop and continue it with part 2. So let's get started. If the audio goes quiet for a bit, then I probably muted the audio so I could sneeze or holler at the dogs or let the train go by or something. First, I'll describe some of the gateway and virtual COM port related software that makes this possible. The first one is a serial port splitter from Fabula Tech. As you might know, Windows does not allow multiple applications to simultaneously access a traditional COM port. So I can't have two apps both talking directly to my 590 on COM6 or to my 857D on COM4. Now, as it turns out, and this was part of my learning curve, some of the other gateway applications I'm using make the port splitter unnecessary for the routine operation that I'm describing in this video. But what it does allow me to do is launch other rig control apps without having to stop Commander, and more importantly, without having to reconfigure Commander. This will become apparent in a couple of minutes. This video is about using a single rig control app, in this case Commander, to control multiple radios. The port splitter thing allows you to do the opposite, use multiple rig control apps in order to control a single radio. In any case, you have to give Commander, I guess any application for that matter, exclusive access to a COM port, either a real COM port or a virtual COM port for each radio that you want to control. There are other port splitter applications out there. I think VSPE is one of them. Serial port splitter is not free. VSPE might be, I'm not sure. Fabula Tech offers a discount to licensed amateur operators for their port splitter application. And no one has paid me or compensated me in any way to demo or promote any of this stuff. I tried the serial port splitter demo. It worked for what I was trying to do at the time, and the price was right. So let me close this, get this web page out of the way, and show you the serial port splitter window. You'll notice that I have configured virtual ports 41 through 44 that are associated with COM4, which is a USB serial cable that's connected to the 857D's CAT interface in the back of the radio. And I've configured virtual ports 61 through 64 to be associated with COM6, which is the TS590's COM port that's available through its USB data/audio interface. A warning here, I've been told that you may not want to routinely have multiple apps directly controlling your radio at the same time. It's possible that they could give conflicting commands with unpredictable results. So maybe I've wasted enough time here talking about something that you might not even need. But again, it was part of my learning curve, and I thought it was relevant. And I am using it to help produce this video. So moving right along. The second app is Comocom. That's this one here. This one creates a pair of back-to-back virtual COM ports that applications can use to communicate with each other. In this case, OmniRig and Commander, where there's no client-server type connectivity between them. It chose COM7 and COM8 when I set up the port pair, so I just left it like that. It worked, and I didn't mess with it after that. The third one is OmniRig. That's this one here. It's the interface between SDRuno and Commander with Comocom here in between. But Comocom sits in between because Commander doesn't know anything about the OmniRig server. It uses COM port type access only, and there's no back-end connection to OmniRig server that Commander knows about. So Rig 1 and Rig 2 are both configured the same within OmniRig. Although I'm not using Rig 2 for anything right now. I haven't tried, but I think Rig 2 would be for another virtual radio, another VRX within SDRuno, which is right around here in the SDRuno window main panel. That's where you define additional virtual radios. Anyway, Rig 2 would probably be used for another virtual radio, but I haven't tried that, and like I said, I'm brand new to SDRuno, and I just haven't got that far yet. The rig type in OmniRig is set to Kenwood because that's what SDRuno emulates. The fourth one here is an application, I don't know if you can see the little icon down there, but an application called fldigi DXLab's Gateway. And as the name implies, it's an interface between fldigi and some of the DXLab applications, such as Commander for rig control and frequency tracking and mode control and things like that. and other applications such as DXKeeper, which is the logging facility within DXLabs. You'll see this one when I use it to launch fldigi, either on this video or on part 2, depending on how it goes, how we're doing for time here. Note that SDRuno is not going to do anything right now because its radio, the virtual radio 0, is not currently connected to OmniRig. SDRuno's OmniRig client, if you will, is not yet connected to the OmniRig server. This button right here is the one you use within SDRuno receive control panel to enable and disable OmniRig connectivity in and out of SDRuno. So I will describe some of the settings in the main window and in the RX control window for SDRuno. Under the main window, the OmniRig related settings are here. There's not much, if anything, to configure. You'll see it is connected to the OmniRig server because OmniRig is running, although the rig status is not used because the radio is not enabled and Commander's not running. I don't think there's anything in the miscellaneous tab there related to OmniRig. I think in the main panel that's it. That's all there is for OmniRig. I don't think there's anything anywhere else. Under the receive control panel, this one right here, the settings, the CAT settings are basically unused. COM7 here is left over from when I was trying to experiment with SDRuno, talking directly to Commander, before I figured out the OmniRig, thing. So you'll see it used to be configured for COM7, but that's not even enabled right now. Under the OmniRig tab, you'll see it. Radio 0, this is Radio 0, is configured to use Rig 1, and it is also configured to sync the virtual radio with the rig and the rig with the virtual radio, and also sync the receive mode. I believe that is probably it for the OmniRig settings as far as the virtual radio. Again, there's nothing in the CAT config or nothing else in that config to have to deal with. I wanted to show you a camera shot of both radios so you could see what the radios were doing as I changed things, tuned around and whatever in Commander and DXLabs and fldigi and whatnot. But I only have one camera, and the rigs aren't close enough together to get both of them in one shot. And today is not Rearrange the Shack day. So I'll show you the 857 on camera, which should already be on camera here. Looks like that's it right over here next to the Kenwood control panel. And I will show you what's going on with the 590 through the Kenwood control program here, which is an accurate representation of the radio's display, the actual radio display, but it's completely separate from Commander and all the other stuff. It's one of those other rig control apps that I was referring to when discussing how the port splitter software makes this sort of thing possible. One quirk that I just found is that the ARCP program, the rig control program here for the Kenwood, likes to be launched first with this virtual shared split COM port thing, and it probably has to do with whoever has primary control over the COM port group within Port Splitter, and that would be whichever app is launched first, at least the way I have Port Splitter configured. So I went ahead and launched the control program so it would be up and running before I tried to launch Commander or any of the other stuff. Here's the config for the control program. Oh, it's in the wrong window. Okay, there's the config, the basic setup for, cat control for the Kenwood's control program. It uses COM port 64. And I'm just going to cancel because I'm not going to change anything. And let me find the serial port splitter application down here. There it is. You'll see that the COM port 64 is in use right now. All the rest of them are idle because COM port 64 is the only thing that has an app using it right now, and that would be the Kenwood radio control program. So I'm gonna, both radios are turned on, and I'm gonna launch Commander now and show you the configuration for the primary radio. Actually, the primary radios, there are two of them, along with the secondary radio, which is the SDR. You'll see right away that the VFO within Commander is matching the VFO that's on the Kenwood itself, and that's because the radio 2 is the one that's currently selected. The 590 is the one currently selected. So let's look at the config here real quick. We'll go to the multi-radio tab first, and you'll see that I have the 857 defined as radio 1. And I gave it the name FT857 Radio 1 in the name box, so that's what it shows up on with the little radio buttons there. The Kenwood 590 is set for radio number 2, and it's named accordingly, and both are enabled. The ones that are not enabled here don't appear in the Commander in the main Commander window. So if they're not enabled, then they're not selectable. Port 3 was another Kenwood. That was actually a test of me trying to get the Commander to talk directly to SDRuno through one of the through Comocom, I think, and either it didn't work at all or it didn't do what I wanted it to do. So anyway, I'm not using that one. The cat ports are the serial ports for the two radios are port 41, virtual port 41 for radio 1, which is this one here. That's port 41, and that ties to COM 4, which is the 857D the CAT interface or serial cable, and COM port 61, which is the virtual interface here, which is now active because I've launched Commander. Port 61 is associated with COM port 6, which is the 590's USB CAT interface. And let me go to the, let's see, the ports tab, I believe it is. Sorry, I had to pause audio there for a second. I had to cough. You'll see that port 61, the one belonging to the Kenwood, is the primary port right now because that's the radio that's selected. If I change it to the 857, port 41 is now the primary CAT port, and it'll change back and forth as I switch from radio to radio. It'll go from 41 to 61. And you'll see it kind of jumping around there in the serial port splitter as Commander connects and disconnects from these virtual COM ports. they will wake up or go back to sleep in within the serial port splitter. Port 7 is the secondary cap port. It doesn't change. That's the virtual port, half of the virtual port pair that is defined in Comocom. Commander connects through Comocom using port 7, and OmniRig connects to Commander through Comocom on port 8. So Comocom resides just right here where it sits on the screen between Commander and OmniRig. So I'll pause the video there for a second. Let me close. I think we're done here looking at the configuration. Up until now, I've been more or less following a script. Now I'm just gonna kind of wing it, click around between radios and spin the dials and basically do what I do during normal operation and let you see what changes on the screen and hopefully describe what's happening as I go. We don't need the configuration window up anymore. We don't need the Comocom window up anymore. I'm going to close that, although Comocom stays running. Don't need the serial port splitter screen up anymore. I can close that, although it remains running. Don't need the OmniRig screen up. I can close it, although the OmniRig server stays going. And I don't think there's anything else in the background. Let me minimize that and see if there's anything. No, there was nothing else back there. So put that back on the screen where it was. Make sure you can still see the 857 in the camera. And move the camera around a little bit, maybe get it a little closer so you can see. So on the Kenwood, now I'm spinning the VFO knob on the Kenwood, and you see it's tracking on the control program. But more importantly, it's tracking within Commander. And notice on the 857, nothing's happening because Commander's not in control of the 857 right now. Commander controls the Kenwood. If I change to another thing while I'm on the Kenwood, let me go into memory mode here, and I can change from memory channel to memory channel. It shows up on the radio's front panel, and Commander follows right along. I'll go back to VFO mode. I can switch between VFO A and VFO B. Let me find the button here. It'll switch between VFO A and VFO B, and Commander is aware of that. Up here at the top, it'll tell you which VFO you're working with, VFO B, or if you're on VFO B, that's where it'll show, and VFO A is still displayed here, and then if you switch back, they'll reverse. So that's how that part works with the Kenwood. With the 857, I'm going to pick that radio here. It basically works the same way. The 857, you see on the camera, is tuned right now to 7164 lower sideband, and that's what's on the camera, and that's what's in Commander. So I can spin the VFO knob on the 857, and Commander follows right along. Nothing's happening with the Kenwood here because that's not the currently selected primary radio. So I can spin the VFO knob. I can change, change modes, lower sideband, upper sideband, CW, CWR, back to lower sideband. Commander follows along just fine. You will notice that you don't see VFO-B for the 857. I don't know if that's a thing with the 857 or if it's a thing with Commander. It was like that 5 years ago when I first got the radio and tried to run it with Commander. There is a, we'll go back to the config here. I'll show you a message where you can read, looking right here, you can read the radio's EEPROM to determine the VFO and split status, but there's a warning there that if the cat command gets corrupted somehow, it might cause a malfunction that'll reset the radio. So I don't do that. I'll close the config back. So anyway, the radio is set to VFO-A right now. Hopefully you can see that on the screen. Get my finger out of the way. And Commander tracks it along, and it considers it VFO-A. If I change on the radio here to VFO-B, Commander changes, but it doesn't know anything about VFO-B. It just knows what the current, it just knows whatever the currently selected VFO is. That, I guess, is just a quirk with the 857. But it works the same way on VFO-B. I can tune around and do whatever, and Commander follows along. So I move the camera. Let me put that, see if I can put that back, if that's all right there. I think that looks pretty good. And I'm going to pause the video again here for a second. Okay, I'm back. Sorry, I had lost my script window there, and I had to go find it so I could continue on. One thing I wanted to show you here, something else that Commander does, or that DXLabs does. Let me pull up the spot collector, which is basically part of is connected to the DX spot cluster here. Let me switch back to the Kenwood radio just because. I can click on a spot here, and if Commander, as long as Commander's running and controlling the radio, if I click on the spot, it will QSY the radio to that frequency and mode, and it works the same way for the 857. I'll switch back to that one and find another spot here. Let's see. We'll click on that one, and the 857 QSY to 7140 on VFO-B, because I forgot to switch it back to VFO-A, but that's okay. And that is, I believe that is about it as far as the DXLab apps are concerned. This spot collector thing is one thing that got me hooked on the DXLabs. So I'll do another video about that later on. So let me close spot collector, and I'm going to launch or enable SDRuno now. I'll hit play and mute because I was listening to local FM radio earlier today. You will notice when I enable OmniRig to this virtual radio, let me go back and select the Kenwood. When I enable OmniRig on the virtual radio, it is going to try to QSY the radio to whatever happens to be the current VFO frequency within SDRuno. It's not going to work because the radio won't tune there, and we're going to get an error message on Commander. But that's just the way it is. and you notice it changed the radio to FM mode, because that's about all it can do. It couldn't change it to 107 megahertz, but it could and it did change the operating mode. So from the radio, we'll put that back to lower sideband, and we'll spin the knob a little bit to update Commander. And you'll see here that when I spin the knob on the radio, it changes the radio, it changes Commander, it changes the VFO on SDRuno, and if I have the right antenna selected, which I do not right now, there's the antenna. The software-defined radio, the RSP1A, is actually getting its input from the antenna output jack on the Kenwood. If I turn that off by hitting the drive button, you see right here on this screen it says antenna out. On the radio itself, you get a little star, but if I turn that off, then the signal just goes away on the SDR receiver, because it's not connected to an antenna anymore. So I'll turn that back on, and again I spin around, spin the VFO knob or the multi-channel knob and change it 1K at a time, and SDRuno just follows right along. I can change bands. SDRuno will change bands along with me. I can change modes on the radio. I can change modes in SDRuno. If I click lower sideband here, the radio goes to the lower sideband. Commander goes to lower sideband, and it works the same way. Oh, you'll notice here that while all this was going on with the Kenwood, sorry about putting that window there in your way. While all this was going on with the Kenwood, there's nothing happening over there with the Yaesu, because Commander's not in control right now. But we'll change that. We'll change over to the Yaesu radio. Kenwood's left behind right where it's at 14.214, but SDRuno is dialed into 7140, which is the VFO that is on the 857 right now. And I'll put that back to VFO-A, and we'll see what happens there. And it follows along. And I can tune the VFO knob here on the 857, and SDRuno just follows right along. Again, I think I have some memory channels in the 857 that we can go take a look at. Not that one, that's the local fire department. Marine channels, there's some RIDI channels. I think here's some of the PSK. Here's some of the PSK channels I've got defined in memory. So it all works. It works just like I wanted it to. It took me a little while to get it figured out, but it all works. So let me pause the video here one more time and do a little cleanup. Okay, so I'm back. Was deciding, we're at 34 minutes now. I was deciding whether or not to go ahead with the fldigi demo, and I might as well, because it's not going to take very long. So I will launch fldigi using the gateway, the fldigi DXLab's gateway, because it wants to connect to the DXLab's applications first and make sure they're running, and then it'll launch fldigi for me. And the startup window is on the wrong screen, so that's why you're not seeing it. But here is, so I can grab it fast enough. Oh, there's the gateway coming up, and it's connected to the DXLab apps. And here's fldigi. tuned to 18100, which is where the 857 is right now. Spin that VFO knob and it follows right along. Change bands and go back to memory mode here from 17 meters to down to 15 or 20, and it just follows right along. Of course, you can't see the VFO on the radio because it's in memory mode, but now you can. We'll switch over to the Kenwood, and it's sitting down at a 20 meter band. So I'll just spin the VFO knob and show you how it follows along. I guess you can't see the radio screen though. Now you can. So spin the knob. Commander follows the radio. fldigi follows Commander. Go into memory mode. There's PSK. There's a PSK memory channel I have set up on this one. Go down to 40. Go down to 80, and it's set for upper sideband too, like the digital mode use. So that's I guess a function of the memory setting within the radio more than it is Commander or anything else. You'll see if you look at the top here, you could see I got fldigi kind of in the way here, but you'll see that SDRuno is tracking right along, and SDRuno will track whatever radio happens to be currently selected. And if I don't want to do that anymore, all I have to do is go up here and disable the OmniRig connection to SDRuno. And then I can tune around on the radios, and Commander and fldigi will follow along, but SDRuno just sits right back where you left it. Likewise, I can go up here and I can tune around in SDRuno, and it doesn't change anything on the radios. So that's it, I guess. I think that's all, folks. Thanks for watching. And all the other videos that I watch say to please like and subscribe and leave comments. So there you go. Good night, and 73 from Kilo 4 Golf Charlie.